Namaste everyone. In today's video, we're going to focus on Muni Patanjali's Yoga Sutra 4.22. Now in this particular Yoga Sutra, Muni Patanjali is helping us to understand how exactly the Chitti plays a very prominent role between the Chitta and the Purusha. So this sutra is helping us to understand what exactly is the relationship between these three different concepts and how exactly do they work between one another to produce certain results. So as we go deeper and deeper into this process, we're going to understand why Chitti plays such an important role in the overall practice of Samadhi and in the overall process. So let's take a good look at the sutra, start breaking it up word by word and understanding it a little bit better. So the sutra itself goes, Chittera prati sankramaya-stadakara pattau swabuddhi samvedanam. Alright, so this is the sutra itself. Now let's start breaking it up word by word to understand what exactly it's trying to communicate. The first word over here is Chitti or Chittera. So it's talking very specifically about the Chitti, which is sort of like the latent potential of the Purusha. Now, this is very closely associated with the Purusha Tattva, and that's why it's so important to understand that it's like the background. It's what allows the Purusha to propel consciousness into action. So that latent element that the Purusha has is known as the Chitti, very closely associated to Purusha Tattva. Then coming to the next word, we have aprati sankrama, a compound word with many words within it. So let us start understanding what exactly does this mean. So a means not, prati means towards, and sankrama means crossing over or going over. So by saying aprati sankrama, it is indicating to us that something is not able to cross over or go over. This is an important concept because it's telling us that the Chitti, since it is part of the overall concept of the Purusha Tattva, the Chitti goes nowhere. The Chitti is not moving anywhere or making any advances because of the Purusha Tattva's inherent need to be aparinami and completely stable and grounded and rooted. So therefore, it is not the Chitti which is making any journey anywhere, and this is the first thing that is being explained to us. Then comes the next word, another compound word, which is tadakara pattau. So this is once again a pretty important word. We're going to try and break up words within it. The first word is tada, which means it's. Then comes akara, which means shape or shape or form, and then comes a or a, which means in, and then comes patti, or pattau, which refers to falling or merging into. So it's telling us that look, it's not the Chitti which is doing it, so therefore this is actually what's happening, and then it goes on to explain the concept. So now it's saying the next word is sva. Sva means one's own. And the word after that is buddhi. Buddhi means cognition and is part of the Chitta or the consciousness process within which the buddhi falls within its realm. And then comes samvedana, which means basically knowing or knowledge. So these are all of the individual words, but let's take a look at what does the whole sutra as a thread mean altogether. So first thing is it's telling us that since the Chitti has the property of not moving, of not going anywhere else, therefore the Chitta receives certain knowledge through the power of cognition by merging into the Chitti. Right? So it is not the Chitti and the Purusha Tattva are literally, just imagine them being very witness principle, just relaxing, away. And then because they have that, we have the Chitta, which is the consciousness principle, and the active one, that is what actually merges in towards Chitti and then towards the Purusha region. So the changes that are occurring, the change that we want to facilitate is being facilitated in the Chitta, which is then being reflected in the Chitti or the Purusha, and they almost become like one over a period of time. So it's the Chitta that we're trying to transform, because the Purusha and the Chitti is already the witness principle. It's already a parinami. So the changes that we're trying to do through the process of yoga are entirely in our Chitta. And that's why even in Sutra 1.2, first chapter, we're told Yoga's Chitta Vritti Nirodha, where we're explained that this is a Chitta Vritti Nirodha which will lead to the practice of yoga. Clearly, the change required is in the Chitta sphere. Alright, now one more thing before we go further into the sutra. I know that Chitta and Chitti sound very similar. It could get a little confusing, so you can watch this video again to differentiate between Chitta and Chitti. Okay, because I know that there's just a little bit of difference in the sound and it could sometimes confuse you. Alright, so now that we've understood the basics, let's dive deeper into the sutra and understand it a little bit better. Alright, so one of the most important concepts that we need to keep in mind throughout this understanding is that the Purusha is aparinami and is basically fixed, rooted, and a witness principle. Now, once we understand this, according to the Sankhya philosophy, it becomes very easy to understand that it's not the Chitta that is engaging very consciously with the rest of the world. That is being conducted or being done by the Chitta. Therefore, when any subject appears in the mind field or the realm of the Chitta, so say for example, there's a light here that is helping us to, film this video, but this light is being perceived by my consciousness, by my Chitta, and my Chitta is engaging or doing upavarga with this particular object or this particular experience, whereas the Chitti and the Purusha are literally just in the backdrop observing or witnessing this. They are not getting involved with that element of light that's coming in, that I'm receiving, that I'm understanding. So this is a very important concept, that the Purusha and the Chitti are not going out and trying to experience something or effect changes in the Chitta. Instead, we are creating changes within the Chitta space. And as we make those particular changes, we start to go deeper and deeper. And that eventually, that Chitta becomes so purified, as they say in the book, but it becomes so clear, it almost reflects the Purusha and the Chitti in its complete consciousness, and that's how it becomes one and the same. So in processes like Dharma Megha Samadhi or Nirbija Samadhi, very often we might think, oh, the Purusha is becoming exactly like the Chitta. Instead, it's the Chitta that is becoming exactly like the Purusha and the Chitti, because of which the cognitive elements that were part of the Chitta are also now representing really well what the Purusha or the Chitti would be representing. So all of it kind of merges and comes into this one singular plane. That also means that the Chitta or the active consciousness principle has to be worked on in such great depth and detail for it to reach the stage of literally matching the Purusha and the Chitti. Now this takes several years of practice, and that's why the Samadhi and Dharma Megha Samadhi are given so much importance, because it's not something that is going to happen very immediately. You can imagine the Chitta and the Purusha are inherently different. We're constantly involved with so many things in the real world. So for us to be able to still our Chittas at that level that it reflects the Purusha, that's going to take a lot of work and effort to still the thought waves and to calm our minds at a completely different, unheard of, unseen level. So that's why this sutra is so important, because it's giving us the explanation of the Chitti, which is like the bridge. So we have the Purusha, we have the Chitta, and between them we have this Chitti, which is like the background or the element that provides the latent potential of consciousness, and that is the Chitti. So once all three of these become one and the same, which is only possible when the Chitta matches those two, that's when Dharmameka Samadhi or Nirbija Samadhi will have said to have occurred. So this is what the entire sutra is trying to tell us. It's keeping us very rooted, very grounded in our understanding, and it's helping us to see how we can actually bridge this gap between all these three elements. So I hope you've been able to understand Sutra 4.22. Of course, this was a very brief and overall explanation of the practice. There are much more in-depth explanations to explain the occurrences, and if you're interested in that and learning even more, please feel free to join our classes, courses or workshops, the links to which are in the description. We'd love to see you in a future class or course. Until then, take care, keep practicing, and we look forward to seeing you very soon. Namaste.